Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and happy Halloween. Hi guys, I've ditched the mask. It was too hot under there and I was getting muffled sound, so let's get rid of the mask. I still got the pumpkin, still Halloween. Anyone that's celebrating it, happy Halloween. I've been playing around with Kodak XTOL and it's a developer that I really do like using. I use it a lot and I usually use it either at stock or 1 part to 1 part, but I've got a few comments recently, people saying have you tried it at 1 part to 2, 1 part to 3, even someone said have you tried it at 1 part to 4, they swore by it. Well no, I haven't, but the only way to satisfy yourself is take the ball by the horns and have a go, you know, shoot a roll of film somewhere and then develop it at different dilutions, and that's what I did. So as it's Halloween, I decided to take photographs of my daughter's pumpkin that she did the other day, which was sitting on the fireplace, and I shot a whole roll of HP5 using my Chinon CE5 camera, all on the same lighting, everything just literally burst. Took the film out of the can in the dark and I separated it into 4 different sections, as you can see here. So they're all the same exposure, all the same image. So there's the 4 strips that I came back with. And I put each strip into a developing tank and then labelled the developing tank stock, 1 part to 1 part, 1 part to 2 and 1 part to 3. So I had 4 different developments going on. I decided to do them at separate times because that way I could keep track with it. All the same temperatures, so everything was exactly the same. And then I went in the darkroom and made some prints that I've got here. I made them quite large so I can see the differences. Now I do believe that if you're going to be diluting developers or XTOL and other developers as well, the higher you dilute, the more grain you're going to introduce, and however you're going to get a sharper image. I'm not really a scientist, but I've read things along those lines. Like I said, I don't usually dilute any higher than 1 part to 1 part, but I thought I'd give it a go. Unless I'm doing some stand development or whatever, that's quite highly diluted, but with the XTOL I don't. So last night while I had this bee in my bonnet, I thought I would take photographs of this pumpkin that was sitting on the fireplace that my daughter carved out. I used the Chinon CE5 camera, roll of HP5 metered at 400, and I shot the whole lot. All the same lighting, all the same composition, literally machine gun shot the camera, and then went off and developed the film. I cut the film into 4 sections, put it into 4 different tanks, labelled the tanks stock, 1 part to 1, 1 part to 2, 1 part to 3, so there's 4 developments going on. And I then took photographs of the negatives, the DSLR scans if you like. And then I went in the darkroom and made some large prints so I could see what it looked like on a computer and also see what it looked like on paper as well. There's no point in me doing small prints. If I do large prints like these 16 by 12s, I'm going to see the grain quite well and see how it holds up. So let's go through. I'll show you the negatives first. So whether you can see this or not on the computer, but these are all the negatives there together. You can't really see much of a difference, but when you look at them individually, I can just start seeing a slight, not so much sharpness, but I would say it's introducing more grain the more dilution that I use. But the real proof in the pudding is going to be on the print. So if I look at the first one, which is stock, this one here, and I'll show you that larger on the screen while I'm looking at it. In the brickwork area, there's not much grain. I can just barely see a bit of grain, but not detailed. The image is quite sharp. It's not too bad, so that's a stock one. Let's look at dilution at 1 part to 1 part. Now I can start seeing a little bit of grain being introduced, which is interesting, and the image seems a little bit sharper. Whether or not I was slightly out of focus on the enlarger on this, I don't know. It does seem a little bit softer than this one, but let's move on anyway. So I can see a bit of grain in the brickwork now on 1 part to 1 part, and the image does look a little bit sharper. There's not much difference at all in the shades. These are all burst at 5 seconds on the enlarger. I only did 1 test for the stock print, and the rest I just did at 5 seconds. Now I look at 1 part to 2, and it's introduced more grain. It's only fine grain, but it's not thick and blotchy. It's only a fine grain, and I think because of the fine grain, it's made the image sharper as well. So again, 1 part to 2 part, I've got a sharper image and slightly more grain. And 1 part to 3, I can't see any difference between one part to 2 and one part to 3. But if anything, it's just introduced a slight bit more grain again. But, to be honest with you, I don't mind grain in my photographs. Unless it's a seascape, I don't really want to see blotchy grain or any grain in the skies. Doesn't look quite nice. But you know, when you're shooting street photography or buildings or whatnot, a little tiny bit of fine grain, I don't mind that at all. Especially street photography, I don't mind heavy grain, or even portraits. I don't mind a little bit of fine grain. It just gives it a bit of character to the print. That's what I find. But seascapes and landscapes, I certainly don't like seeing grain in the sky. But looking at these prints that I've made, I don't think I've ever done a dilution at one part to 3. And if that's going to save me developer when I'm using XTOL, I can't see anything that's ugly about developing at 1 part to 3, to be honest with you. I wouldn't mind trying to do some more photography and developing in Kodak XTOL at 1 part to 3 and just see what they come out like. This certainly hasn't come out bad whatsoever. Hardly any difference between 1 part to 3. Looking at large prints, I can't really see much of a, you know, if you're going to look from this kind of, I'm looking close up with my glasses on, but if you're looking from here, I can't see any difference hardly at all. It just seems a little tiny bit sharper. So yeah, so there you go. I said it was going to just be a short video. It's something that I would have done behind the scenes, but as I've got a YouTube channel and you guys are learning along with me, I thought I'd put this video out there for anyone that's interested or was curious about dilution with developers. That's what I've come up with using XTOL at those dilutions, and I'm glad I did that little test because it's something that I haven't done before. And as I said, I've only ever diluted XTOL 1 part to 1 part. At the highest, I think I might have done 1 part to 2 at some point, but you know, never done 1 part to 3. So that was interesting. So let us know your thoughts, guys, on dilutions with developers, particularly XTOL that I'm playing around with here. I hope you liked the video. It's only a short one, just wanted to put it out. Happy Halloween to everyone. And if anyone knows Azriel Knight, he's recently doing podcasts, and he interviewed me yesterday. We had quite a laugh talking to each other over the podcast thing. He's asked me all sorts of questions. So jump onto Azriel Knight's channel and have a little look. I think he's posted it online now, so you can see me and him having a chat about film and and all that funky stuff. Anyway, guys, happy Halloween, and I'll catch you next time. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss the next one.